Welcome to the Improbably Designed Awards show, presented by your MC of the evening, Petya Morozov, founder of Montclair Design Week and Design Shed, and also, little fact, a member of SPURSE, a design collective that is not about the design we think of. Tonight we are presenting something that is extraordinary, something that is really profoundly perplexing. A design awards show that unpacks the improbable. Tonight, along with Tanya Tagak, who will be joining me musically here and there, we are going to share with you awards that may not make sense initially, but that are completely shaping us and you and our non-human friends. The show must begin. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to mention what our categories are going to be, but only after I introduce members of SPURSE who are going to be part of this evening's schedule. So first off, I'd like to introduce you to Kerr. He is one of the co-founders of SPURSE. He happens to also be a core member of Montclair Design Week. And he's along for this wacky ride. Maybe we can just pull up a little image of Ian. He's waiting in the wings in the Hall of Awards. Not sure where you are, but that's where he's going to be tonight. And then I'd like to bring along Matthew Friday, who is he's a bit of a cat lover, I would say. But tonight he's donning his sort of like back alley look, I would say. He's ready for what's going to happen next. We don't know what's in his back pocket. Maybe it's a pistol, maybe it's a pencil, maybe it's a bottle of whiskey. Then I'd like to bring along Stan Pipkin. Stan is, he's just coming off of another award ceremony, so we're so delighted that he could join us for this award ceremony, and maybe he'll kind of give us a little bit of a teaser as to what he was involved in. God knows it won't be better than tonight. And Stan, let's just see a little of your action down in Texas. What is it looking like down in Texas?
Got a lot of craziness down here. The sun is doesn't stop with creativity and quite a bit of innovation. When you put sun and people together, you get very strange things happen.
I think you've got a little bit of sunstroke already.
Thank you, Petya, for that remark on my personal appearance.
That's right. Please take care of that after the show, okay? Just push through. I know you can do it. Then we happen to have somebody who we're really only going to know her through her feline friends, and that is Farwell Pipkin. Some kind of relation to Stan Pipkin. And and we will get to meet Farwell and her feline family in a bit. They're a very important group, I would say, because actually, whereas there's sort of like, you know, a behind the scenes awards nominations, like scrutiny that happens, we're delivering the awards to you as we find out what will be awarded. So that is already a nice departure from the usual. And I think we're queuing up who those, you know, feisty little creatures are who are going to be helping deliver each of the awards. So without further ado, let's just talk about what the categories of this evening's design awards are. First up is going to be past winners. even though we've never had this kind of design awards before, there are plenty of past winners. It'll take a lifetime for us to figure out who those past winners are, but bear with us. And then in the next category is going to be the Lifetime Achievement Award. As you can imagine, this is probably bigger than all of us, and will continue to always be bigger than all of us, and we'll have to figure out who's going to keep giving this award after we're gone and turn into carbon. The next category is going to be whoops category. We'll have to find out what that is. Our fourth category is going to be the Non-Humans Award for Humans. You get that little twisteroo? That means that on behalf of the non-humans who may or may not agree that we are, their agent of choice, they will bestow their nominees for the Non-Human Awards for Humans. And then finally, we will conclude with the Non-Causal Award. So it's sort of like the nth degree of separation kind of award. Let's see where that takes us. So I think without further ado, we should just get started. And how this is going to happen is that we're going to go one category at a time. And each of our guests, Ian, Matthew, and Stan, will present the nominees. And then after each has been presented, and they'll give us about a minute or two of each nominee, then we will see how the whole sort of awards disposition takes place via Farwell. And we'll see what that looks like. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to start with our Past Winners Award. First up is Ian, who will be presenting the first nominee. And he's coming.
All right. The first nominee is Flint. Humans are 130,000 years old, but I was made billions of years ago. There's many types of rock, but only I split beautifully and cleanly. We credit humans with everything, but if it wasn't for my ability to split cleanly into faces, humans would never have evolved. The oldest stone tool is over 3 million years, 3.4 million years old. Humans started experimenting with me, or really I started experimenting with them before they were human. Australopithecine, I tried it on them. I've tried it on many creatures. And it took millions of years before they finally caught on. And slowly I pushed pre-human hominids towards something. And just 130,000 years ago, they caught on and they really understood the profundity of splitting. Thank you.
That was fantastic. That was a fantastic description of our first nominee. And now we're going to hear from a little word about the second nomination, which is going to be told by Matthew.
Hello, I'm so happy to share with you our second nomination, the electron. The electron's very small, and people tend to forget the importance of it. This effervescent being whose playful dance upon whom this conversation is carried, and we are fully indebted to. The subatomic poetry of the electron is really writ large into the very building blocks of the universe. And as Heisenberg has taught us, It's one of the most tricky lessons of quantum physics that we learned from electrons, that they like to sort of party a little bit, and they waver in between wave and particle, depending on how they're measured. This dilation between wave and particle also taught us a really important lesson that I think we need to remember, and we have awarded them previously because of this, that any pretense to a measurable and empirical reality really has to always begin from some sort of a perspective, human or otherwise. So things like fact and value, idea and matter, subject and object are really inseparably entwined and co-emergent with one another. This perspective that comes from it is really never neutral, for it always involves probing and provoking and perturbating the very things that it's measuring. So electrons really like to shake things up. Flickering in and out of the quantum foam of the world, the electron's probabilistic dance demonstrates that matter's never fixed or stable, nor is it a passive and blank slate ready to absorb our thoughts and our actions. Our tiny friends, the electrons, show us that at its core, matter's not a thing, but an ongoing and emergent process. Thank you.
Oh, spoken by a true electron magnet himself. Thank you so much, Matthew, for that. And finally, we're going to move on to Stan, who's going to round out the third of our 3 nominations for the Past Winners Award. Stan, take it away.
All right, thank you, kind MC. So this is a special award. It has been awarded in the past and is ongoingly rewarded. So it is also unique in that it's a collaborative award between, as you can see, relationality, affect, and sensation. We'd like to honor Baruch Spinoza and Brian Masumi for doing some a text analysis over the years related to this award. Now, the world is constantly remaking itself through entanglements, not of things in our humanly provincial lens of objects, but events as interactions of material systems and forces composed along lines of affect, one of our award winners, and sensation, yet another. What we humans consider as discrete things are events that communicate. Now, these evolve into provisional stabilities, mutate through exaptive disruptions, but the lingua franca, so how they communicate, this world making is relationality, the third of our triptych here, whereas we might consider affect or sensation. Now, while we humans are in the habit to marginalize the touchy-feely side of things, the world is happy to remake continuously by feeling itself into relation to forces and material flows. A quick example, before the Wright brothers was this awkward little reptile with outsized heat flaps, trying to manage its body's production of heat and survive the terrestrial deserts. It's a long time ago. Over time, the heat flaps get larger and larger until the relation between body mass and surface area produced a new relation to the passing breeze. A glider emerges. The reptile becomes a bird, and the world now has a radically different relation to gravity. The habit of surfing gravity becomes an aerial ballet, and the world does not look back. Back to you, Petya.
Well, Stan, you just made things that much more spellbounding, because now I have no idea between these 3 nominations for past winners. First, we saw and heard from Ian about the first nomination, Flint, and then on to Matthew presenting the nomination for the electron. And then finally, Stan telling us about relationality, affect, and sensation. Who will the award go to for past winners category? Let's find out. To do that, we're going to move on to Farwell Pipkin, who's going to now present to us just how we get to find out. Let's bring on Farwell. This is when I like to turn up the Simple Minds. maybe not. It seems as though we're going to keep you in suspense about this one. Why? Because we want to make sure that they have ample time to make their decision. So let's move on to the second category, shall we? Second category is the Lifetime Achievement Award. And we need to say that this one is probably about as abundant in its possibilities, only because it first reaches far out from humans, as far as you could possibly go. And so we're just gonna start with our first nomination, which is going to be Ian. Please take it away, Ian.
It's lipids. If we're talking about a Lifetime Achievement Award, we have to talk about life itself and how it emerged. And before life, there was the bubble, the membrane, the container, the holder of possibility. Where did that come from? Lipids are fatty, fat bubbles blowing. They came not from Earth, but they came from deep space. They came from other planetoids. They came from asteroids and meteorites. They came from nebulous gaseous clouds that rained on Earth. In the early years, they emerged billions of years before the Earth, and they awaited its cooling as they rained on it. And they allowed the possibility of an inside and an outside. They allowed the possibility of communication between inside and outside. The idea of being a subject and an object, of having agency and having separation and difference. Before everything is the bubble, an empty bubble that allows for lifetime to emerge. Life is bubble. Thank you.
Fantastic. I don't know how you beat that, honestly, but we're gonna see. We're gonna move on to see about our next nomination under the Lifetime Achievement Award. And Matthew, please present the second nomination.
The second nomination goes to bacteria. Well, as my colleague Ian indicated, lipids might have arrived first, but it's really bacteria that fully took advantage of the possibilities that lipids were only dreaming of. Bacteria would like to remind you that no matter where you go, it's already been there. It's an explorer, an experimenter, a true change agent. Bacteria is thoroughly deserving of this award, I would argue. The biomass of bacteria is really only second to plants, and who cares about them unless they're looking over your shoulder. And no matter how far humans have dug into the planet, we find that there's bacteria already lurking there, just mocking our puny efforts. Unlike some of the other nominees, who I won't name right now, bacteria are really, truly humble, and they like to share. They're not prima donnas. They don't have any use for these go-it-alone auteurs. Through mutation, they happily adapt to any sort of situation. And then in this act of radical generosity, they share what they've learned with their fellows via horizontal gene transfer. There's no nepotism here. There's no Trump family to worry about. Bacteria are happy to teach other beings other than their own offspring their tricks. And as Lynn Margulis has taught us, bacteria can permanently merge with other beings, even pesky humans. And deep down, we're all just sort of multi-species assemblages. So bacteria are really the true movers and the shakers.
I don't know how you top that, Matthew, with that kind of delivery. I am beginning to believe you. But you know what? Before we pass any judgments, I think we need to hear what Stan has to say about our third nomination. Stan, tell us.
Well, So Petya, I really appreciate the previous nominations, eloquent and convincing, but here's the deal. Carbon. You can see it's dematerializing as we speak. Okay, so carbon, it's a simple design and it's a robust, endless set of relations. Now carbon is number 6 on the periodic table, and this position affords several key inspirations for its enduring creativity. Now, carbon makes friends for life. It has lasting, durable, resilient relationships. The bonds it forms with its neighbors, those are some of the other elements, defy perturbation and challenge the human's notion of control. Carbon makes friends with so many others, with a clear set of electrons to bond with itself and with others cleanly and repeatedly. And frankly, and this is just to keep it simple, carbon is so abundant, easy to make, and it lasts. We've got a lot of it in the universe, and it makes up a lot of everything. And just a note, in another through another academy, carbon has won the George Bataille Award for the excessively sublime several times over.
Those are swaying words. Well said by our friend Stan. I'd like to check in to see how Martha might be doing. Perhaps would we be ready to deliver some awards, or shall we keep people in more suspense?
Here in the award room, we've been deliberating over all the nominees. What a wonderful set of nominees this year. Let's see, Juno wanted one.
Is that a pink eye during Martha?
And Hannibal was going for Flint. The winner for this year's Improbable Award is number 2, Electron.
Oh, congratulations, electrons. We have to cue up the right soundscape for this. Oh my goodness. Introduce us to this fine selection committee.
In the front row is Pow, Gray Tabby. Coming along.
They are a cooperative bunch.
This is Harry.
Hi, Prince Harry. So good that you could join us.
Queen Maud.
Maud. I think the ear position is maybe thinking otherwise about this award ceremony.
This is Juno.
Oh boy.
Lovely Juno.
I think Juno just wasn't as quick to the selection of treats there. Oh goodness. Yeah, that's great.
Hannibal, pensive but deliberate.
Wow. You know what? They might have had a disagreement. I think not everyone is in agreement about electrons. But you know what? We're going to just run with electrons. Thank you, Martha, and thank you to Prince Harry and Maud and Pow and Hannibal. And who am I leaving out?
Juno.
Juno. You know what? I think that was a fine selection. We are so pleased to, we will be putting out the press release on that one first thing in the morning. Thank you so much. Do you think that they might be ready to help us determine our Lifetime Achievement Award?
Yes.
Excellent.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
That was some beautiful animal from some tropical place, wasn't it? Yes.
Lifetime Achievement Award this year goes to one.
One.
Lipid.
Oh my goodness, lipids. Wait, was it lipids? Oh yes, it was lipids. Yes, lipids. We're gonna play some transitional music now by our friend Tanya Tagak. And I think we're ready to move on to our third category. Thank you so much, selection committee. It was a difficult decision, I'm sure. And we will be returning back to see how you feel about our next category and the nominations for the Whoops Award. Katz, can you join me in saying whoops? Let's start with our first nomination. Ian, please tell us about our first nomination.
First nomination comes from a relational composite called Waves, Hands, Pools, and Drought. Waves and Hands joined when Jerry Lopez discovered that the patriarchal stance of skateboarding was not how you join the earth and join waves and the ocean, that you have to bend down and you have to connect and you have to flow with the flowing. And this led to a whole new stance, a whole new posture, a whole new set of bodies. Skateboarding was born on land through this gesture, but it was only with the drought of 1976 that emptied the arrogant consumerist pools of California that allowed an emergent phenomenon called modern skateboarding to emerge. So when we want to talk about whoops, when we want to talk about the accident, when we want to talk about the true beauty of accidents, the accident isn't one tripping over your laces or falling over something. It isn't a eureka moment. It's a multi-year, multi-stage cascade of possibilities co-emerging across systems, oceans, tides, moons, currents, the meeting of beaches, waves rising up and curling, hands coming down of bodies that once grasped stone, falling into pools and swimming, and the sun bleaching these pools and skateboarders taking over. And so I nominate for the Whoops Award, Waves, Hands, Pools, and Drought.
That's a phenomenal, that's a phenomenal nomination. I don't know how you beat that, but we're gonna try. We are going to hear from Matthew now, who I think actually knows a thing or two about this next nomination, but we'll see. Matthew, please tell us about our next nomination for the Whoops Award.
Hi. So the next
I think that's a whoops, Matthew.
Oop, there we go. Sorry about that. So this, let's try that again. Okay, there we go. Yes, so whoopses are everywhere, as we can see. But this nominee insisted that it briefly introduce itself. And we felt that its voice wasn't something that we really needed to suppress. So I just want you to listen to it as it articulates its importance and why it deserves to be recognized in this particular way. So yes, the harmonica. Like its close cousin, the cowboy hat, the harmonica wasn't really created by specific humans, but rather a set of dynamic forces. Starting in the mid-19th century, the harmonica was inspired by an encounter between East and West when European travelers saw the sheng, a floating reed instrument that had existed in China for thousands of years. They brought it with the intent of designing it as an orchestral instrument. But here's where the story gets interesting, because the oops here has to do with both a failure and then a critical reemergence. So Hohner, one of the early manufacturers of the harmonica, was also an industrialist who was experimenting with cheap industrial processes and realized he could make this instrument expediently and inexpensively. And for that reason, it actually became quite unpopular with orchestras who wanted expensive Stradivarius type instruments. So then the harmonica jumped on board and traveled across the ocean with the slave trade, and it gave voice to the excluded and the forgotten, from Welsh mine workers in rural Appalachia to the forced slaves in the southern plantations. The harmonica has given voice to the voiceless. It's a bastard child that was rejected by its parents. The harmonica needs now to be recognized, not just for overcoming tremendous adversity, but for really its raw talent. From something as overbearing as a train whistle to the plaintive cry of humans that try to express their suffering, the harmonica has taught us that creativity comes from looking outward, not inward, and from imitation, from repetition, and from exactive experimentation.
You know, I've tried to play a harmonica once in my life, and I would say that I could feel that it was onto something because I simply could not master it. It must have overtaken my senses. So I'm glad that I see it making its comeback in other ways. Thank you so much, Matthew. You have taught me not so well to play the beautiful harmonica. But I beat you really well in pool, if I recall. I digress. We are in the middle of our third category. We are making our third category's nominations known to you. We already described how pools, droughts, and Jerry Lopez's hands might be a contender. Then we heard from Matthew about the harmonica. And now we are going to turn it over to Stan to hear what convoluted whoops award we might be able to come up with for what is probably one of the most contested inventions in our last 100 years. So Stan, I turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Patty. I'm going to slip this one right in, and Matthew, we'll talk later about, we've got a booking down here in Austin. I think we need to rope you in, so appreciate the performance. This nomination goes to Teflon. Now, you can see it okay there. Okay, so we're going to take a short trip back to the kitchens of the mid-century. It was when the promise of progress through efficiency and less work in the kitchen was introduced by the arrival of Teflon into mainstream commercialized products, primarily, as we understand it, through the surfaces on kitchen utensils. Now, Teflon is a long-chain hydrocarbon, both incredibly durable in the environment, and it refuses adhesion by foodstuff and bacteria alike. A previous nominee. Our daily domestic lives look bright with this new invention. And if you think this is the whoops moment, it is, it's not quite the full whoops, but it was a happy accident that Teflon was in fact discovered in 1938. Roy Plunkett backed into this PTFE, the compound known as Tefla, by working with gases and refrigerants, working on an entirely different problem. Fast forward, we have insight into the molecules that are part of this manufacturing process. So Teflon becomes commercialized, becomes distributed across our worlds, integrated into our daily life. But in fact, one of the components that goes into the making of Teflon is a compound called, one of the family of polyfluoroalkyl substances, and PFOA is the compound in question. And it turns out that it, in fact, resists everything else. It stays in the environment, hiding, wreaking havoc. A new relation is discovered through diligent investigative and citizen science to expose this material, which really begins to rewrite the relationship between what are vaunted efficiencies, i.e. the kitchen of the future, and the arcane world of chemical manufacturing. Now, the whoops, in fact, is Teflon, which was imagined to make our lives easier, to remove friction from the material world, is in fact one of the many stories that reminds us that the world we make is not the world we are sold, but the world we co-compose with entangled engagement and vigilant oversight for the systems of production and deployment. In fact, this material that promised removing friction has introduced a stickier situation for sure. Back to you, Pipkin.
Stan, ever the poet, even with Teflon. I didn't know that that was possible. Words can sometimes stick when using cast iron. Stan, that was really, I'm not sure how you just, you made it so hard to really be able to come to terms with all three nominees for this year's Whoops Award. But I think that it's in the very,
it's in the paws of the judges.
it is, once more. I do have to ask, have they been fed?
Yes, the committee has been fed.
Oh, good. We don't want any kind of animal cruelty, non-human cruelty on our show.
Not on the show, no.
No.
On this show, our feline friends have been diligently debating and the merits of each candidate, and frankly are tired. They did, however, I would, when I can explain our process, I would be glad to. They have this year for this award, the Whoops Award, the Whoops Award, have chosen two, which is the harmonica.
Matthew, please give us a little harmonica speech there. Let the harmonica speak.
The harmonica always loves to speak. Thank you very much.
Wow. It was a compelling story, no doubt about that. And one day, Matthew, we will come to terms together over your harmonica teaching techniques and my pool techniques. We must move on to the next category, as fun as that was, because I think we could just keep on going with whoopses. In fact, this whole evening is one big whoops. But we are going to move on to the fourth category, which is so apropos of how our jury selection committee has been operating. They probably have been feistily working together to figure out how these three nominees are going to fare. let's move on to category number 4, which is the Non-Humans Award for Humans. To begin, we're going to ask Ian to present the first nomination.
Sorry. I am speaking on behalf of those who made us, seed grasses. Now, in the infinite arrogance of humans, the history tells us that plants were domesticated by people, and that was the beginning of civilization. We have Yuval Noah Harari and Bill Gates, the most recent kind of superstitious, reactionary historians that imagine that somehow people domesticated us, the seed plants. But it's exactly the opposite. In fact, as finally your human research has recently shown, that we co-evolved before the human, and we co-evolved hard seed shells, small sizes, and easy dispersal for all megafauna to crack us, shit us, carry us. And it was humans in humans that we discovered our greatest ally in a mutualistic relationship. We, the seed plants of the world, the seed grasses of the world, we made you. We recruited you to disperse us. We led to your domestication, my friends.
Well, now, I don't know how we're going to be able to move on. That's a big claim. And I'm not sure even if seeds speak in that tone, but we're going to just keep it on level and move on to our second nomination by being presented by Matthew. Please, Matthew, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next nominee really wants us to keep this short and sweet because it's got a lot of work to do. So I'm not going to wax eloquent as my colleagues have. I'm just going to state this simply and bluntly that it's really beavers that deserve this award. So why did so many Europeans come to America? As much as manifest destiny, colonialism, and advances in sailing technology might be the cause, the answer is really beavers. Their fur powered the westward expansion, and the oil squeezed from their posterior glands scented our perfumes and continues to do so. Now that we've hunted the beaver almost to extinction, the beaver has in turn rewarded us with the gift of rampant fire, which rages across America, reshaping our ecosystems and reminding us of beavers' important contributions in the past.
I don't think there's any other way to put it. Matthew, thank you very much. Beavers are quietly reshaping as we speak. Your particular meadows are going to turn and shift into some other new possibility, and be on the lookout for those beavers. But I think we can only really know what our Non-Humans Award for Humans outcome is going to be if we speak to Stan, because I think Stan really has something that is very timely and revelatory to this particular moment. Might be hard to beat. Stan?
So we'll start with a short riddle, and I appreciate Petya. This is something it's among us now. So no need to look into history. See it from today, and you'll realize where this is coming from. So what is constantly changing and challenging our notion of being alive and navigating the world of living beings as experiments? It's it's this nominee that sees the world, in fact, as an experiment, looking for relationships that produce its own success. So this is a class of nominees, but we know it most recently as COVID-19. So in the short months of this year, it's proving to rewrite so many human systems. The physical and genetic structures of this COVID-19 virus, slightly different from its cousins in the last few years, have produced a radically new set of relations among the humans, which may rewrite our relation to the rest of the world. Now, the nominee has offered several strategies. There's the 6 feet social distancing, masks, and hand washing, 3 simple responses. And in fact, as we humans, we're rewriting our transportation economy, our service economy, our physical workplaces, exposing our inequalities, the disparities in healthcare, exposing the disparity in foodways, exposing economic and environmental disparities, challenging corporate politics, our educational system, our interpersonal habits, our space of social intimacy, our emissions, walks in the park, our ability to share at a distance, our fragile sense of community, our ascendant commitment to generosity, the promise of collective action, compassion in the face of suffering, and a sense of empowerment in the face of global challenges. The nominee leaves us with these simple words: rewrite the relations and recompose the world.
I think we now leave it into the hands, the paws, I should say, of our selection committee.
The envelope, as Juno presented this evening. But first, I would like to thank the Academy for this opportunity for our feline friends. The winner this year of the non-human award is Virus.
Out by far, has been the most diabolical, interdependent, co-conspirator of all things novel. Thank you to COVID-19. And now for our final category. And I have, again, I have Tanya, who's joining me to help us present the final category, the Non-Causal Award. And we have now 3 nominees to present to you, starting with Ian and his nomination. Please, Ian, tell us.
All existence is folding. The interweaving, the pleating, the joining. All life begins in the fold. Even the lipid is a folding, a turning in on itself. Nothing is possible without folding. We talk about genes and genomes, but they are merely the servants of protein folding. And all existence of life is a fold of proteins. As proteins fold, they lead to cells folding and multiplying. Cells turn inwards and make tubes. Tubes bend and stretch and fold and fold and fold. We have organs and hearts and livers and kidneys and brains. The relation of the human to the world is a fold. We know we're not separate. The relation of a human to the virus is a fold. The relation of the human to bacteria. The ecosystem is just a folding upon a folding upon a folding. Everything folds and is folded. The Big Bang is an unfolding. The collapse of the universe is a compression and a refolding, all surging and pulsing of life and existence is the fold.
Ian, I must say that I don't think we actually caught the beginning of your folding. So would you please demonstrate that one last time?
Existence.
Can you understand now why this is a non-causal award? I will ponder as we move into our second nominee, presented by Matthew Friday, who will try to contest your nomination. Matthew,
you.
please take it away.
Gladly, gladly. So our next nominee are humble and ubiquitous crows. The ultimate experimental designers, crows redefine what it means to be creative. According to our criteria, crows really shouldn't even be intelligent. They don't have the right brain structure to exhibit the complicated forms of consciousness that humans decided have our intelligence. Yet we know that covids, crows and ravens, are capable of reasoning. They can understand cause and effect. They can solve multi-step puzzles. They plan for the future. They invest, they save, they communicate, and they even fashion tools out of complicated and multiple elements. But this nomination really goes to their remarkable ability to transversely collaborate with the urban environment, cataloging affordances and testing, not through intention, but rather through exaptative emergence, the unique potentials in their ecologies. Their standout performance this year, which we want to highlight, has to go to their recent appearance at traffic intersections all over the world, where they've been observed patiently positioning nuts in front of red traffic lights and waiting patiently for automobile collaborators to turn these nutty trousers into their lunch. Unlike humans that are locked into seeing the world as a set of purposes and goals and endpoints, crows experience the world around them as just pure affordances and potentials. Thank you.
So well put. Make sure you don't make a crow out of your next lunch. I will ask Stan to round out our nominations for the Non-Causal Award. Please, Stan.
Well, I'm going to sail into the happy evening and present oceans. Now, the tide is rising, and that's not just a euphemism. We humans have long considered ourselves as terrestrial creatures, but Poseidon, I would say, has been scheming. The ocean is not simply covering the land incrementally year by year. It has been recomposing the land as oceanic. We humans are its dutiful agents. Now, just to get to know the ocean a little bit, we all know it's the source of 50 to 70% of the oxygen in the world. It's 90%, 97% of the water on the earth. 60% of our humble population lives on its boundary. It happens to regulate the climate. It is the world's nervous system. But the ocean's bounty has done something else. In its mystery, its immensity, it's conditioning our landlocked habits. We farm the land with the ocean. When you consider the amount of nitrogen pulled from the productive shallows of the waters, first there was guano, then small fish meal, fish oil. It supports industries characterized by the land, like meat production and some of our healthcare, agriculture. But in fact, we're living inside of its extended boundaries. Our addiction to plastic also finds in the oceans a path back to the bodies of the addicts. We are not just water, we're also plastic. We ingest through the ocean's vectors microplastics that now promise to reconstitute our health and our composition itself. the ocean says goodnight.
And we say thank you to the ocean and sorry. You know, I'm going to just take a brief moment to recognize sort of the tendrils of SPURSE reaching beyond who we know in front of us, and to say that we are joined by the beautiful Sylvia and the beautiful Julia, completing the Matthew Friday that we see before us, along with his bacteria. So thank you to your bacteria, thank you to your beautiful spouse, thank you to your beautiful daughter, who also loves bacteria. And now we are going to go to the selection committee and ask them to determine who is going to be the winner of the Non-Causal Award. Please, Martha.
The committee is really inspired this year by the non-causal candidates. The winner is clear. Fold.
Ah! It's time.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I must speak on behalf of the Fold.
Would you please?
I have to come up. I have to get through the audience first. And I want to thank you because you've given this award to all things, to every possibility. And I want to fold all of you into this award. You cats, viruses, seeds, waves, ocean, bacteria, tides, people, suns, drought, hands. The list is infinite, and I will be here all night thanking you. So I thank you simply by saying, fold, fold, fold.
And we must fold ourselves into the evening. I thank everyone for your empty glasses. I thank everyone for your speculative foldings. I hope you create foldings and crow-like lunches. I appreciate our embedding and embracing of all things carbon, because we will become, as we already are, carbon. So to each of our nominees this evening, we thank you all for bringing on design as we cannot ever express in just one evening. So please think about what we've said tonight. Breathe in what we've said tonight. Turn up your Tanya to dock as you must. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We thank Hannah. We thank Colin. We thank Prince Harry and Maud and Hannibal and Pow and Juniper, or Juno. Thank you, everyone. This was a stunning event. Could not have ever predicted what the outcomes would be, as it should be.
Everyone in 200 million years.
We will see you in 300 years. Million years.
Put it on the calendar.
Put it on the calendar. And thank you to our guests, Julia and Sylvia, for joining us. And good night to all of you for putting up with whoops.
It happened improbably.
And improbably. Excellent.